Alright, shalom. All praise to Yahweh, B'Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the elders of GMS. Much love to you brothers that come by with faith and honesty. And this is for the elect. This is another Ww3 update. The last video I did was on Russia sending the warships into Syria. Syria is pretty much that cuspis into Iran. Okay, because as you can see, Russia's coming to be a guard unto Syria also. Okay, so these prophecies are coming to pass pretty fast. Okay, so this is Revelations, real quick verse, Revelations 11 and 14, and it says the second woe is past, and the third. It says the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Alright, the third woe's coming quickly, man. It was slowing up maybe about 9 months ago, you know, close to a year, wasn't heating up, but now things are happening daily, alright? So let's get into this video.
The U.S. troops are on the ground in Turkey, close to the Syrian border, and Patriot missiles are also on the way. The two-year conflict in Syria.
And I showed you Russia just sent to 300, roughly about 16 ships with Marines on it. Okay, so they got troops over in Syria. So if the U.S. goes into Syria, they're gonna go lock horns right with Russia. All right, so this thing is right there, and then if that happens, all we need is the chip.
On the ground in Turkey, close to the Syrian border, and Patriot missiles are also on the way. The two-year conflict in Syria has now killed more than 60,000 people in that country. According to the United Nations, officials there are calling it, quote, truly shocking. NBC's Annabelle Roberts is in London live for us this afternoon with the very latest. Annabelle?
Craig, yes. Well, the U.S. troops are there at Turkey's request as part of a NATO deployment reinforcing defences along the country's border with Syria. The missiles are on the way and will be operational towards the end of January. Meanwhile, inside Syria, the bloodshed continues.
People caught up in this latest explosion race to help the victims. It's believed this is the aftermath of an airstrike that hit a gas station in the capital Damascus 4 days ago. At least 30 people were killed here. Just north of the city 2 days later, another gas station went up in flames. It's thought this blast was caused by a car bomb. No one has claimed responsibility. The violence in Syria continues as forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad fight over territory with rebel groups. Footage of summary executions can be found on the internet, but where this film comes from is uncertain. Here, 2 rebels are tortured by men in military uniform and killed. Every day the death toll mounts. The United Nations estimates more than 60,000 have already been killed, but a spokesman admits the true figure is probably much higher. The UN also says more than 500,000 have fled the bloodshed and are currently living in camps along Syria's border, like this one in Jordan. American soldiers have started arriving in Turkey. 400 are being deployed here to operate NATO anti-missile batteries along the country's border, requested by Turkey to bolster its defences against the chaos of Syria. For 21 months, fighting has been tearing this country apart, and there is still no political solution in sight.
Syrian state media has just announced that President Assad will deliver a speech tomorrow. Now, that's extremely important as he hasn't spoken about the conflict for several weeks. They say he's due to talk about developments in Syria and the region. Craig.
And I might post that speech if I can find it. All right.
Annabelle, really quick question before I let you get out of here. With regards to the rebels and their fighting prowess, how can we characterize it now versus 6 months ago?
Well, I think rebels certainly are concerned that their supplies are running out, that they're not getting the reinforcements they need, they're not getting the funding that they need. And this is certainly complaints that we've heard reported from Syria. So I think the real question is this seems to be turning into some kind of stalemate and that there is no political solution in sight.
Annabelle Roberts from our London Bureau. Annabelle, thank you so much as always for
Salakia. My throat. Alright, real quick, let me get into one more scripture, and then I'm going to jump into something else. This is Jeremiah I'm going to try to put 2 videos in one. This is Jeremiah 50 and 24. Jeremiah 50 and 24, and it says, we'll start at 23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Now, this story is showing that this is building up to the Third World War, but it's going to come to a point that how's the hammer broken? Now, America didn't have no, major aggressors like this, man, in a long time. You know, since probably the Cold War. Okay, so the Most High's turned the hooks back into the bear, put the hooks into the bear's mouth and turned him back into his old ways. Alright, and it keeps going, and it says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Like, they don't know going into Syria, sending these troops, we're already knee deep in it, man. There's no turning back. It's a snare, it's a trap. It's like a bird trap or a mouse trap. When the mouse grabs the cheese, the trap goes off. Okay? And these elites have taken the cheese. Alright? They have taken the cheese, and the Most High's trap is went off. They're locked in now. The horns are locked in. The pride of America, they ain't going nowhere, man. Okay? And it says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast strived against the Lord. And how have you strived against the Lord? You ain't got hands to touch the Lord. How have you strived against him? By going against his laws, statutes, and commandments, and taking it into your mouth, and then touching his people, the apple of his eye. You Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the biblical 12 tribes of Israel, okay? Alright, so let's get into this other video. I might show half of it, and then the other half will be on another video. But this goes into that Sandy Hook shooting, because the Spirit's been on me to do videos touching on it here and there. But this is a video, this came out December 19th, okay? This ain't no new video, but it breaks it down to a point better than I can with information, alright? And I can get to it. So we'll let this explain it.
Within just a couple of days after the Connecticut school shooting, alternative media has blown up with reports of an eerie connection between the Connecticut shooting and the Colorado theater shooting. Alternative media claiming that the fathers of both of these shooters are actually connected in a very strange way, because both of them, the reports say, were set to testify before the Senate in the Libor scandal. Is it true? This is a subject that definitely deserves full disclosure. Let's start with what we do know. The alleged shooter in the Sandy Hook elementary shooting was 20-year-old Adam Lanza, who police say went to Sandy Hook Elementary and killed 20 kindergarten-aged children, 6 teachers, and then himself. And all of it happened after he reportedly shot his own mother in the face at her home. Adam Lanza's father is Peter Lanza. According to ABC News, Peter Lanza is a vice president at GE Capital and had been a partner at global accounting giant Ernst & Young. Now, the hook here, again, according to alternative media, is that Peter Lanza was actually scheduled to testify before the Senate in the Libor scandal. What is Libor? It's an acronym for the London Interbank Offer Rate. Libor, in short, is the most widely used interest rate in the world. Estimates of how much money is tied to Libor vary from $350 trillion, yeah, with a T, to $800 trillion. Once a day.
You guys know who that banking cartel is. We've been telling you, that's the Rothschilds, man. Okay, that's the DuPonts, that's the Gettys, that's the Oppenheimers, okay, and different families that have been inducted over the years. Okay, they have their hands in, and none of these peonic banks have any kind of say, because you ain't gonna do no money without them signing off on it, man. Okay, so you ain't gonna be able to do what this scandal's been able to do without them having full knowledge of it. All right. That's them. That's that blessing, man. The fatness of the earth. Okay? They hold right now the fatness of the earth with all that money. 800 trillion.
Major London banks tell Thomson Reuters the interest rate they expect to pay on a loan from another bank. Thomson Reuters drops those rates in the highest and lowest 25% and averages the 50% in the middle. and that is the LIBOR rate. So where's the scandal here? Well, it came to light in the middle part of this year and even some years ago that some banks were actually going through the process of manipulating those interest rates. In fact, some of those banks may have actually deflated or inflated those interest rates in order to give the impression that they were more creditworthy than they really were. It is a complicated story and a huge scandal because hundreds of trillions of dollars were affected by this LIBOR rate. Hundreds of trillions of dollars affected by rate manipulation by banks around the world. But again, what does this have to do with school shootings? Well, besides the claim that Peter Lanza, the father of Adam Lanza, was supposed to testify before the Senate about LIBOR, there are also claims that the father of the Colorado theater shooting was supposed to do the same thing. In that case, it was James Holmes, who authorities say back in July went into a theater in Aurora, Colorado, and opened fire, killing 12 people and injuring 58 others. Now, when the details of that shooting began to emerge, it came out that James Holmes' father is Dr. Robert Holmes, who works for Minneapolis-based Fair Isaac Corporation, FICO, which is a computer analysis and decision-making company. If you look at Dr. Holmes' bio on LinkedIn, it says in part, "My educational background is in mathematics and statistics. My experience over the last 10 years at HNC and FICO has been in developing predictive models for financial services, credit and fraud risk models, first and third-party application fraud models, and internet online banking fraud models." Alternative media jumped all over that bio, saying that...
So, he breaks it down a little bit, but to go deeper into it, that they pretty much, he figured out a way to detect fraud, okay, because numbers are numbers. If you say something's another thing, but then yet your numbers aren't adding up, okay, but that's why it's a scandal, because a scandal, it includes more than one party. Alright, that's why it's going into different organizations that have to do with LIBOR. Alright, these people are doing it knowingly and lying and cohorting with each other. It's pretty much like this: if I go down, we all go down type of mentality. Okay?
Dr. Robert Holmes was actually scheduled to testify before the Senate on the issue of LIBOR because they claim that he actually created algorithms that were able to detect that bank rate manipulation by banks around the world. What you need to know here, though, is that as alternative media has gotten very excited about these two men, again claiming there is a direct correlation between Dr. Robert Holmes, the father of the Colorado shooter, and Peter Lanza, the father of the Connecticut shooter, there just isn't any evidence of that. So here are the facts. In the case of Dr. Robert Holmes, fact, there is no evidence that Dr. Holmes was on any witness list to testify before the Senate about LIBOR. There is no evidence that I have found so far that Dr. Holmes created an algorithm that broke open the LIBOR scandal. However, there is evidence that Dr. Holmes has created a number of algorithms over the years and is in the business of creating those algorithms for the sake of finding bank and credit fraud. As for Peter Lanza, there is also in his case no evidence that I have found that he was on any witness list to testify about LIBOR. However, and here's where it gets interesting, October 18th of this year, 3 men from GE Capital, yes, the unit of GE overseen by Peter Lanza, were sentenced to prison time for a bid rigging scheme. According to CNN Money, the 3 men sentenced worked for General Electric's GE Capital unit, where prosecutors say they colluded with counterparts at other firms to rip off bond issuers. 2 men, Dominic Carrillo and Peter Grimm, received 3 years in prison, while the third, Stephen Goldberg, got 4 years. The men are the first to be sentenced as part of the government's ongoing investigation of bid rigging in auctions for the investment of municipal bond proceeds by some of Wall Street's biggest firms. So, there is no evidence that Peter Lanza was going to testify about LIBOR, but it does appear that Peter Lanza's GE Capital division, over which he was vice president, again according to ABC News, was involved in a bid rigging scheme that used LIBOR rates to manipulate the bond market. That is the story as we know it so far. Is there more? Maybe, and we'll keep looking for it.